Forgot about me real fast.
Dude coming out the building today, his face was all scarred and scary.
Quarrel, boo. I'm turning up the heat to something real uncomfortable.
Music always been your dream.
Only dream when I'm asleep.
Playing with fire, Unique. I am fire.
Burning everything down to the ground. That's Unique's mindset going into these first few episodes of Season 4. He made the move with Andre, which was a huge move, taking Rock's lawyer off the chessboard, but he is going to go again. There's no rest when it comes to Unique. So how does Rock react to Andre's death? How does she react to Richard and Sunny's death? And how will she react to Kwan's price increase of 20%? How does she try and level up and take his place as the Connect? I recently broke down how her empire could be on the verge of collapse, just when she thinks she's about to make the biggest deal she's ever made. I think it's going to come all crashing down. History rhymes. We've seen it before in and around Ghost around the Season 4 mark, where the walls really started to close in, and where he felt really isolated. So is it that time for Rock? Especially when you factor in Unique, who will want to take her piece of the pie. So we are going to be running through a very quick preview of what to expect for all things episode 403, which at the time of this recording, I always do my videos a day before, apart from episode breakdowns. At the time of this recording, they haven't dropped the exclusive images as of yet. If they do, I will still incorporate them into the breakdown, because I am sure we're going to touch on all the key points. But let's start with the episode title and synopsis. Now the title of episode 3 is Bygones, and the synopsis reads: as Rock and Marvin face the aftermath of Unique's violent clandestine comeback, Lou manages his new artist, Kanan gets through to Joyce Thomas, and Jukebox embraces her sexuality. Now, one of the first things I do think they have to start with, or give us the answers to, is the reaction to Andre's death. We need to see the reaction from law enforcement, as well as the Thomases. Will law enforcement dig deeper in terms of who could have been behind the attack, and will that put the Thomases back on their radar? I think we all know Rock is in big trouble in Season 4. With no Detective Howard, no Andre Barnes, she's gone and lost 2 major players who had connections within law enforcement, so we definitely need to see the reaction to Andre's death. There's also her reaction to Marvin and his side hustle with Stefano. Just before Andre was taken off the chessboard, he mentioned both her and Marvin were seen visiting Stefano, and that was a surprise to Rock. She had no idea Marvin was doing a few side missions, because if she did, there was no way she would let this slide. She's the type of person who would actually tell it to Stefano to his face. Their little adventure stops here. But has the damage already been done? I personally think it has. I think the damage has already been done, and we are really going to see this backfire for both Marvin and for Rock. Marvin was Rock's glue in Season 3. He was there through thick and thin, and rarely messed up. Apart from his little side friendship with Gerald, he really did become Mr. Dependable. But he has somewhat resorted back to his old ways, and I think we are going to start to see the consequences. More so because the person Marvin got rid of was one of Stefano's highest earners. So let's see what the consequences are, because there definitely will be, that's for sure. Now with her war with Kwan, I'm really interested to see which direction they take this one. We know normally what Rock wants, she normally gets, and if she has to play dirty to win, she definitely will. But why did Kwan increase his prices by 20%? I asked this question in my last breakdown, and the answers I got definitely make sense. It probably stems from his gambling addiction. Going forward, I think the question is, will Rock really be able to take his position, and how will she do so? And there are a few problems that Rock is going to face. Kwan isn't just easily going to give up his position. She definitely will have a fight on her hands, that's for sure. And number 2, even if Rock were to get into a good position, where she could potentially take his place, how will Unique's attack affect her operation, income, and reputation with Stefano and the other crime families? I really doubt they're going to want to be on board with someone whose empire is on the verge of collapse, because that's definitely Unique's aim. He wants to burn everything down to the ground. So Unique's next move will definitely be Richard and Sunny at the Chinese restaurant. We're going to see the Chinese restaurant being closed off, and this is going to have a lot of implications for Rock. Closing off the Chinese restaurants and losing Richard and Sunny means no product is flowing through one of her operations. Will law enforcement also find the product and start connecting the dots back to the Thomas organization? I think Unique's aim is just to create as much chaos around Rock and her empire. I don't think he even cares who he hits and how he hits them. He just wants to cause absolute chaos. But this really will have a huge impact, because just imagine knocking a house down brick by brick, but you're starting with those guys at the bottom, the bricks right at the beginning that set the foundation. Eventually the structure at the top will begin to crumble. That's what we're seeing at this moment in time, and that's another thing Rock is going to have to react to very quick. Now in terms of Unique, how long will he remain a ghost for? We all know at some point he is going to get back into a business relationship with Phil Russo. I don't know if that's going to be in episode 3, but I am sure it is going to be sometime soon. That's when it's going to get even more fun, because by that point, he's going to start to build his own crew. However, first, we also need to see him go to Kanan's apartment, where I don't think he is going to meet Kanan just yet, but he's definitely going to have Crystal and OC spooked, that's for sure. I also wouldn't be surprised if this causes a bit of issues for Crystal and Kanan as well. Unique is someone who's going to scare a lot of people, and two that could end up being on his radar could be Crystal and OC. Now just sticking with Kanan, we are also going to see him having another conversation with Joyce Thomas. Based on the synopsis, we're going to see him get through to Joyce in terms of having this conversation with Marvin, Rock and Lou, and it definitely will be interesting. I'm not sure if we're going to see it in 403, but with the Thomases, there are a lot of secrets, a lot of backstory we still need to learn, and a lot of things that these guys need to get off their chest. So we're definitely going to get one step closer to, in my opinion, Joyce Thomas's death, and learning more about the Thomases. Now with Jukebox, it's time to let go of her past and embrace her future. We know she's going to be embracing her sexuality in episode 403, which may be with a new love interest, and I still do think we have to keep a very close eye on whoever this is. I do think she could be someone who triggers the ruthless Jukebox. But with Juke, I'm also interested to learn if there's going to be any consequences to her leaving the army. I was reading a few comments and I have been doing a bit of reading myself. It does seem like it was quite common where people would just up and leave or go AWOL, although I'm not sure if there are going to be any consequences to her leaving basic training a bit later on, and whether that kind of answers questions in terms of why she became a cop, but definitely expect to see her throwing away her music gear, and it's now over to Jukebox's dark path. With Lou, we're going to see him get back into the studio and kickstart this new working relationship with B-Rilla. However, I mentioned this before, especially when we broke down Lou's character arc, I don't think B-Rilla is going to be so easy to manage. He's said to be volatile and raw, and I think as time goes on, Lou's probably going to find it really difficult to keep B-Rilla on the right path. We also discussed the shady businessmen in suits and ties. We've seen it before in Power when Ghost had to deal with Simon Stern, and the other alternative I can definitely see is Lou and B-Rilla being on the end of a deal which completely robs them of all their hard work. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Men in suits and ties are sometimes worse than the criminals in the streets. Now elsewhere in episode 403, I wonder if we're going to get any more answers in terms of what's happened with Famous. I think we're going to have to be very patient with this one. I do think we will get the answers eventually, but I do wonder if they could drop a little hint or two like they did with the conversation with Marvin and Lou. Marvin said the word on the street was he was talking and then got to running. I went through a theory which was raised by one of the regulars in the comment section, Mad Chicken, in terms of how his death may even be shown in a flashback. So let's see if there are any more hints and teasers in terms of what's happened with Fame. Will Kanan mention anything? Jessica was back for a short period, although we don't know if she's going to return. Could Jukebox question where's Famous now that she's back in Queens? So just another observation, something I do think we do have to keep in the back of our minds because it will eventually come back around. But that's where we are for all things episode 403. They're definitely building up patiently and telling a complete story, one which will definitely age like fine wine once it's all said and done. It's going to be well worth it. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on all things episode 403. And as always, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you next time.